Okay, this is week one, color and print production. And my name is Bill Sweeney. What we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be taking a look at a couple of things. We're going to take a look at Cooler very quickly. And then I am going to go over the projects that you're going to be doing this week. I'm going to demonstrate as much as I can about these projects so that you have some idea of what it is that I'd like you to do with them yourself. So the first thing that I want to do with these projects is tell you that the course calls for you to create them in one of the Adobe programs. I would very much appreciate it if you guys do this work in Adobe Illustrator. There's a very good reason. There's a very good reason. There's a very good reason that I'm asking for you to do this in Adobe Illustrator. The two projects that we're going to be working on tonight are perfect candidates for Adobe Illustrator. So one of the things that I'd like to get across to you through the course of the next 4 weeks is that as graphic designers, it's very important for us all to understand what is the proper program to be using it and when to use it. So when we're working on projects like we're going to be working on tonight, most of these are very well done in a vector program. And vector program is probably an incredibly flexible program. You'll come to find that out. And it's probably something that you haven't spent enough time with. And I find that a lot of people tend to pitch towards Adobe Photoshop when Adobe Illustrator, they kind of avoid it a little bit. They find it menacing or threatening, but it's really not that difficult. And I just think that it's the kind of thing that you need to spend some time with. So what I would very much like is that when you work on these projects that you work on Illustrator, I'm going to be demonstrating these in Illustrator because frankly, I think Illustrator is the best program to be working with. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take a look at Cooler because one of the assessments will be this week, the discussion will be about Cooler. So here is the Cooler site. I'm not going to get into all the details on it, but you will have to log in. As you see, I've logged in. There is Adobe Cooler is now available in CC. You can learn more about that. You can use color themes. You can go in and check color rules. This week we will be looking at color rules. They have several here that I think you'll find very helpful. Like for instance, they have analogous color, and here they're showing you a spread of analogous color. They have monochromatic color, and you can see what monochromatic colors look like. You could come in here and look at a triad of color. One of the ones that you're going to be doing would be a triad of color, tertiary colors. There's complementary colors so that you can see what complementary colors look like. So you really do get compound. Here's compound color scheme. Shades, there are shades of color. You can see here the shades, and then you can come in and you can do custom color work. So this is one of the things that you can do with this. You also have the sliders down here which enable you to modify the color. You can come in and you can do whatever you want to do with these colors and play around with the colors. And you can see up here as you do this, your color scheme updates. See how as I move these sliders around, let's see if I can get it to move. There you go. See the slider updating? And you got these colors in here. You can pick any one of these colors and come in and modify the color. And you just keep doing this. And what's nice about this is it gives you two things. It gives you your RGB colors, and it also gives you your hexadecimal color. So this is one of the really nice strengths of this. There's all sorts of stuff that you can come in here. You can look at different themes. You can look at all themes. And here are a bunch of themes that you can look at. What I've done and what I'm going to be doing later on tonight is I've actually saved a theme, and I'm going to show you how I take my theme and bring my theme into Adobe Illustrator. So it's all, you know. See, like for instance, right here, I'm looking at theme 11. Let's look at theme. I don't know which one I don't remember which one I did. I did. Was it most popular? Sandy side? No, it doesn't matter really. The bottom line is that you can download any one of these themes that you want. And just so that I can do that for you, I'll download one of the themes. So here it is. It's downloading it. It downloads as called cherrycheesecake.ase. It's an ASE file. And I'm going to save the file, hit OK. And now it'll come into my downloads. There it is, Cherry Cheesecake. And I can simply click and drag this to my desktop, and there's Cherry Cheesecake. So I now have those colors. Now let me close this down for a minute. And there's Cherry Cheesecake. And I have these files. These are the files that I'm looking at tonight with you. And I'm going to open them up, and you can see that I also have my color theme in here. This is another one that I downloaded. So I actually now have two of them, and I'm going to bring both of them into the work that I have for tonight. So there I've downloaded a theme color. And in a matter of minutes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you into Illustrator, and at some point I'm going to show you how I bring that theme into Adobe Illustrator, and then I can utilize those colors in anything that I want. The point of this is that these colors are colors that you can acquire, bring them into your program, and you can actually work with them. So if you're working on a project and you're supposed to come up with some sort of a nice sophisticated color scheme, and maybe you're having a little difficulty in doing that on your own, this program, which is a very strong program, Kuler, enables you to do this. It enables you to actually come in here and play around with all the different themes that are here, or go in and create your own theme right here. Okay, so you can actually do either or. And actually, I also put some videos in for you. The announcements, there's several videos that I think you, if you haven't already looked at them, go in and take a look at those videos, because they give you some more specific instruction on using Kuler. And Kuler is something that's very nice, and we're going to get into a little bit more of a discussion about that in a little while. So there's Kuler. This is one of the things that you're going to be doing. You're going to take a look at Kuler, and you're going to be talking about it in your weekly discussion. Now, as far as the discussions are concerned, I noticed that there are a couple of students in the class that I had in my last class. So I welcome you back. There's quite a few new students that I don't know. I really do want to say a couple of things about discussions, because there seems to be periodically some confusion about discussions and how discussions work. In every case, you have, in order to get your grade in on time, you have until the final Saturday, the end of the day of any particular week, to get your projects in before the project is technically late. There is a problem, though, and this is something, I mean, common sense should tell you this. When you're having a discussion, you can't wait until the very last minute to put a discussion and a reply in and expect that students are going to know that that reply came in the last few minutes of your day at the end of the week. You can't expect that to be an acceptable situation. The whole concept of a discussion is that you do it quickly, you put your information in, and you allow the students to read what you put in and respond to it. So, you know, to wait until the very last minute and just slap in 3 discussions is very unacceptable. And I kind of, unlike the other assignments and assessments, I'm very forgiving on assignments and very forgiving on assessments. I am, however, not that forgiving when it comes to discussions, because frankly, a discussion is something that should take you no more than 15 minutes to do. I mean, really. I mean, if you can't go in and write a comment about Kuler after going in and looking at Kuler, there's so much to say about it, and there's so many things that you could learn and talk about. If you can't do that in 15 minutes and then come back the next night and read 1 or 2 of the discussion posts that other students have put in and reply to them. Because again, a reply is no more than, a couple of lines of copy, a question maybe, and, you've done it. You're talking 5 minutes, and you only have to do two of them, at least two of them, plus you have to do your initial post. So you're talking about three things. If you can't do in the first few nights three things like that, then I can't really expect you to expect me to be able to give you any kind of a grade for it, because if it's handed in at the end of the day, in my eye, technically you didn't really do the job at all, because you did not allow the students have any time that they need to take a look at what you've put in and discuss it with you. So again, you probably get mad at me over this, but the bottom line is I'm going to be very strict about discussions. I'm going to ask you to discuss early. Get your discussions going as early as possible, and recognize that there is a requirement for you to put in an initial post by no later than Wednesday, and your two reply posts any separate night of the week. So if you put in two posts on Monday and you put in your initial post on Tuesday, you're in good shape. And again, what I'm trying to express to you is that I'd really like you to try to get your posts in as early as possible, so that you have the ability to get other students to interact with your posting. So I hope you understand that. If you have any problems, you can give me a call. Plus, one more thing, in the announcements, I've also placed a rubric for discussion, assignment, and assessment. And I very strongly recommend that you go and you get the rubric and you open it up and you take a look at the rubric and try to understand the rubric, so that you know what's going on and what's expected of you. Okay? So that's it, really. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that, and that you'll have no trouble with these things. And the rest of it is just really a matter of reading the book and doing the assignment. And what I intend to do tonight is I intend to go through a demonstration of the assignment and show you exactly how I would handle doing this, and how I think you should go about it. As far as I'm concerned, you can use Creative License when you do this. You can do creative things whatever way you would like, but try to keep in mind that there's a very specific thing that you're trying to reach, a goal. You're supposed to be trying to create, number one, a demonstration of a color wheel. So you're going to want to do your color wheel in a realistic way. That's the first thing. And you can be creative with it, but remember, it's still got to suggest a color wheel. And you want to demonstrate certain color relationships. I'll open this up. They're going to ask you to do, I think, analogous is one, okay? And they're going to be talking about a triad of sorts. And of course, complementary is going to be one. So here's just a few of the rules that they're going to be asking you to deal with this week. So you can actually get the information right out of Cooler here, or if you want, read the book, and the book will tell you all about these color relationships. I'm sure that it will also give you visuals that you can use to guide you when you are creating your color wheel. And there's also a second part to the assignment, and that is to create a color relationship of some kind. And I have created two of them, which I'm going to show you, demonstrate that later on tonight. So that's more or less it. And again, the topic of the week, more or less, is Adobe Cooler. And you're going to be talking about Cooler. I think there's another site as well that they want you to take a look at, but the primary one I think that they're looking for you to understand is Cooler. And quite frankly, right now at the beginning of this, when we're working on basic color rules like this, I mean, this is kind of stuff that we did in grammar school and in high school. So this should be something that's somewhat familiar to you. Next week, we start to look at color from a production standpoint in printing. And then we get into a much broader and more sophisticated approach to color, which I personally think is a great deal of fun. It's also extremely valuable because the bottom line is you guys are going to be graphic designers, and these production techniques you have to know. So we're going to cover all this stuff, and we'll get into it. And I hope you'll find it as interesting a subject as I do. So key things for tonight is take a look at Cooler, go into announcements. Announcements is a very big thing. I must have 6 or 7 or 8 announcements in there for you. And each one of those announcements have either attachments or links that I think are going to be extremely valuable to you. So really, please go take a look at what I have in there and either download the stuff and keep it on hand and look at it, or follow the links and see where the links take you, and watch the videos that I have there. You also have a bank of videos that you could look at, and I really do want you to go and take a look at those videos as well. But I went to the trouble of finding videos that I thought were really specifically very good for where we're heading with this course. And through the course, I like to throw those videos into announcements and give you the opportunity to take a look at them. They really make me think, and they really help me, and I absolutely know that they will help you. Okay? So that's that. And we're now going to move into Adobe Illustrator. So I'm going to start off by going to my first piece of the project, the color wheel. So this is basically what you guys are going to be building this week, a basic color wheel. This is what the color wheel really is. It's a matter of a series of colors, and you're going to create this color wheel. Now, since we're in Adobe Illustrator, there's a few things that I think are very important for you to know. And I haven't addressed these things yet because basically I wanted to address them with you. One of the first things is you'll notice that I have my layers palette open here, and I have my swatches panel out here. And the first thing I want you to see is that in the swatches panel, there are all kinds of colors in here. And these colors, to a large degree, have nothing to do with what I'm working with here. Sure, there's a red that looks similar to that red, but it's not the same red. That yellow is not the same yellow. All these colors are not really these colors. These are colors that are default colors. Now, how do I know that? I'll show you. I'm going to go to the File menu, and I'm going to go New, and I'm going to create a new document. All right. And I'm not even going to bother with any of this stuff. I'm just going to throw a document out because I want you to take a look at the swatches panel when I do this. So I'm going to hit OK. And look at that. Basically, you get the same swatches panel. Do you see that? So what I'm trying to say here is that the program opens up the swatches panel with all these colors in here. And not that there's anything really wrong with those colors, but they aren't really the colors that I am going to be working with in my project. Usually when I create a project, there's a particular purpose in mind for the project, and generally it involves using a certain specific number of colors, or I am going to create my own colors. So one of the things that I always like to do first and foremost, and I have an untitled document here, which I'm going to ditch out of, okay, because I really don't need this document. It was just a way of showing you how the swatches come out. I'm going to ditch out of here, and I'm going to go back to my color wheel here. And again, you'll see that I have all these colors in here. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be demonstrating how I built this color wheel using Adobe Illustrator. And I'm going to hopefully give you enough information that will enable you to very quickly and very easily create a color wheel just like this. So that's where I'm really heading with this. So this is the one that I'm just showing you as a little demonstration. The one that I'm going to actually work on is the second color wheel, and I'm going to click on it right now. And there's my second color wheel. And I want you to notice that this is 2 pages. I'm going to go View, Fit All in Window, and now I've got them basically fitting in the window. These are my 2 pages. Now, there are my colors. There are my colors. These are the colors. These are the hues. When I say hue, hue means color. So when someone says, oh, what hue is that? You'll know that they're talking about color, because color and hue mean exactly the same thing. Also want you to notice that to make this easy, what I did was I went in and I used hexadecimal numbers for the colors, okay? So what I'm going to do is to demonstrate this, I'm going to click on this red chip right there. And I want you to look over here, and you'll see that in my fill, I have the red loaded in there. And when I double click on this, I get my color picker. And my color picker has the color right there registering that red. And if you look down here, you'll see that I have a number of different color modes. We are going to be discussing color modes next week. But I just wanted to show you this very quickly. And I wanted to show you that ED1E24 is equal to ED1E24 up there. So this is how I am getting these colors, and this is how I am coming up with these numbers here so that I could actually build this. And where did I get this in the first place? Simple. And I'm going to get rid of this for now. What I did was I went online and I looked for the color wheel. And then I clicked in a Google search, go. And when I went, I found that there was an area where I could click on images. And what it did was it brought me up a ton of images on color wheels. So I found a couple of color wheels that I thought best represented what I was trying to accomplish with my color wheel. And I just copied them to my desktop. And I simply went in, I brought them into Illustrator. I don't have it anymore, by the way. But I simply brought that bitmap in. Hi, Jennifer. How are you? Got your mic on? Can you hear me? Hello? Jennifer? Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, you can hear me? And Carla. How are you, Carla?
Gosh.
Okay, listen, this is very important, and I'm glad that you guys are here. Here's the deal, and this is for the entire class. I am an instructor that likes to have the mics on for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I very much, I don't know whether, Carla, have you been in my class before?
Yeah, I was in your last mod.
I thought so. The name was familiar. I'm thinking to myself, Carla, I know Carla. So how you doing? I'm glad to have you back. It's
good.
Terrific having you here.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's good to be here.
But so you already know what I'm about to say. I would like my students to be able to have their mics on, and I like them to be able to communicate with me through the class. So
Yes.
it's very important for you guys and all the other students that will show up or will not show up this week, who might show up next week, to understand one very important thing. I ask you to kindly find a quiet spot where you won't have background noises or children or animals, so that it can be nice and quiet, so I can let you guys keep your mics on so that you can ask me a question at any point. So is that easy enough to do, do you think, guys?
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah, so you did it last week, your last mod with us. Did you like the way that worked out, Carla?
Yes, I liked it a lot. I did.
Yeah. So I think it's a good way to go, and I always do everything I can to make it so that this is a real class. And I think the best way to do it is to have an interaction and not this nonsense where you're email or texting me or all that. If you have a mic on, if you want to say something, you can speak up and say it, and I like that. I think that just works better. So I'd like to try to do that. So I'm just saying to everybody, make sure when you come in that the room is quiet so that you can have your mic on. If you can't get a quiet room, then come in and close your mic down so that we don't have a lot of background noise, because it really does disrupt the actual recording. And I'd like to record. I have enough trouble talking like a normal person as it is, and the worst thing I need is to have all this background stuff messing me up further. Okay?
Yeah, Mr. Sweeney, Jennifer was wondering how to get her mic on. And Jennifer, if you just click on the left lower side, that mic icon, it has a slash through it. If you click on it, it will unslash. And I just read her chat box.
It looks like hers is on already.
Oh.
Let me just see here. Okay, so unmute it.
Yeah, just talk.
So you guys can hear me then.
Oh, there. We can hear you now.
Is that you, Jennifer?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Every other class I've been in, you have to push something to talk, so I wasn't sure.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
So anyway, Carla will tell you, I do like to have the mics on for students so that you can ask me immediately when you see something or have a question about something, because you, after all, are here to learn. And the only way that I think you can really learn is by having a conversation directly with the instructor. So that's what I try to do. I try to make it so that you could do that. The only way this is going to work, though, is if you guys have a quiet place to do it. Because if it starts getting crazy in the background, and there have been students, I don't know, Carla, you probably remember, a couple of times it started to get a little out of hand, you know? And it just, it really ruins it because, again, you know, it's very disruptive. I can't concentrate. The students certainly can't concentrate. And then it ends up on the recording, which obviously doesn't make the recording sound professional. And I have enough trouble being professional as it is. You know what I mean? I'm a casual kind of guy, and I think that works best. So that's it. I'm not going to continue to beat that, dogs, but that's basically what it is. So what we're doing right now, what you missed, I did have a conversation a little earlier before you guys arrived about Cooler. And I also talked a little bit about the discussions. And one of the things that I'm a real crab about when it comes to discussions is getting a discussion done early. Nothing irks me more when somebody waits till the 11th hour and just slams in a couple of discussions and then gets mad at me when I'm not giving them a grade for them. I mean, the bottom line is a discussion is meant to be put in early so students can communicate back and forth. And if you wait until the very end, how is anybody going to be able to respond to you? So, I mean, have you really entered into discussion? No, you've just put some comments in, and that's just not right. So, you know, we're adults here. We got to really, you know, look at this and say, what do we got to do to make this thing right? And that is, when you're going to have a discussion, come in and have a discussion early so that people can actually respond to you. And then you could read what they're saying and go back in and perhaps respond to them. And then it becomes really worthwhile. If that doesn't happen, then the discussion fails ultimately. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
Okay. I also mentioned that I got a whole bunch of stuff in announcements for everybody. So girls, go in and check it out. There's a bunch of links in there for you. There's a bunch of stuff. There's also rubric for discussions, give you an idea of what I'm going to be grading on for discussion. Also for assignment and assessment as well. Okay?
Okay.
Finally, I don't think you're going to find this course to be very difficult. Which one of the courses? You were in my you couldn't have been in my, I had this course last mod, and I had the InDesign course last mod. So you, Carla, were in my InDesign course.
Yes,
okay.
I was.
So you kind of, in my mind, you should have been in this course before you got into InDesign, because this is, in certain ways, a little bit more basic, but it has similarities to what we were doing in InDesign. I mean, we're going to be going over again the concept of how do you create a document properly, and how you publish a document properly, you know, packaging it and doing, which you did last mod, right? So you should be ready to go with that, right, Carla?
Yeah, I had a little problem with the zip file. I was doing the compressing, but it wouldn't open for you.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we can figure out what your problem was and see if we can resolve it this mod.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You'll be doing some of that stuff again. So, and I don't think it's really very difficult. And the nice thing about this, Carla, is you will get the opportunity to see it applied to two different types of projects. So you're now going to really begin to understand that there is a very basic way to go about this, and it isn't such a mysterious, difficult thing. It's just a singular path that you go down, and you have to understand what you see on that path and what you do with the things that you see on that path, and that's it. Once you have it, you should be able to pretty much handle anything that anybody throws at you from that standpoint. Okay. And the other thing I was crabbing about a little earlier is that in the assignment area, they are pretty vague about what programs you could use. I do not want you to be vague about it. I'm of the mindset that there are very specific programs that do very specific things. And being a professional designer requires you, as well as me, to work in the right programs. It's a very important thing. So what I am saying to you is, this program that I have open right here, Adobe Illustrator, this is the proper program to do this week's assignment in. So please do not send it to me in Adobe Photoshop. I do not want it in Photoshop. Don't send it in InDesign because I don't want it in InDesign. Please take the time to do this in Adobe Illustrator. There's a whole lot of very interesting things that you need to learn about in this program. And one of the things I want to do is take the opportunity to try to teach you some of this. Have either one of you worked in Adobe Illustrator very much? Jennifer, Carla, what do you think?
A little bit.
A little bit? When you say a little bit, then obviously a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I did when I was in school before. I created like business cards and such like that using Illustrator.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we're actually going to create a business card this mod, and technically, just so that you know, Adobe InDesign is the proper place to make a business card, and I'm going to show you that next week because, see, again, I'm going to be a little lenient with you. It does say that you can make the business card in Adobe Illustrator. Technically, though, it is not correct. You should not be doing that.
Easier in InDesign.
It's not really easier. It's actually about the same kind of difficulty, but the thing is that as a graphic designer, it doesn't seem right for me to tell you things that aren't absolutely true. And doing things like a business card in Illustrator might be acceptable in a school environment like this, but in the real world, if you were working for somebody on the job somewhere, it would not be acceptable. They would expect you to do it in Adobe InDesign. So I will let you guys make it in Illustrator, but I would hopefully have it that you would make it in InDesign. I'm going to show you both. You will be making a trifold brochure in the third week of this course, and of course that will be done in Adobe InDesign. Okay, so you're going to end up there anyway.
Okay.
But this is all about color and production. Tonight, we're basically talking about the basics of color, okay? Hues and different color relationships. That's what we're talking about. Next week, we begin to talk about color modes, which is more now moving into the area of printing. And we'll take a look at the difference between process color and spot color. We'll learn about that. And then we'll also learn about different file formats for different elements that are going to be going into your production of a business card next week. And I'm going to show you how to modify a logo that's submitted to you. So this is the kind of stuff that we'll look at. We'll also talk about setting up a document correctly for these kind of things. And we will also talk about how to actually output the document correctly as well. So we're going to get into a lot of very important stuff. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't know, Carla, what did you think as an instructor? Was I particularly difficult? Did I make things really hard on you last time? You can be honest.
No, you're just really, really particular. And I liked that because I want to do things the right way.
Yeah. Well, I want you to do things the right way too, because ultimately your job will end up depending upon it. I mean, when you get working for somebody, if you're doing things the right way, they're going to like you and they're going to keep you and they're going to want to make sure that they pay you appropriately so that you don't go anywhere. If you're not doing things the right way, they're going to wonder what idiot taught you. And then you're going to have to say, Bill Sweeney, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah. No, I like that.
I have enough trouble without that. All right.
Sounds scary out in the real graphic design world then.
Huh?
So that kind of sounds scary in the real graphic design world.
Not at all. It's not scary at all. It's just a matter of knowing and being shown by somebody and just so that you understand. I mean, I've had people show me the things that I'm going to show you. This is just a matter of passing the information on to you that I know to be correct. And if I try to show it to you as correctly as possible, am I perfect? No, I'm not perfect. But the bottom line is I will try to show you the right way to do. That's why, as I say, in a project such as this, to do this using Vector is exactly what you want to do. So again, it says you can use any program you want. You can use InDesign. You can use Photoshop. You can use Illustrator. You know, please don't listen to that. You should be doing this particular project in Adobe Illustrator, and it gives you a great opportunity to learn about some of the terrific stuff that is in Illustrator. So take the time to do that. I mean, there is Illustrator, there is Photoshop, there is InDesign, and there's even Dreamweaver, and there's even Flash. And before you get done with this online courses, you will probably experience every one of them, and you'll have good teachers that will try to show you this stuff. So ultimately, you know, learn and get into all those programs, because in the end, you'll probably need every single one of them. All right?
Okay.
Any questions?
No, sounds great.
Any thoughts? Anything at all? We're going to move on, right?
Right.
Okay, so back to color. So I have my colors here, and actually I've loaded my colors into my example. This is what we're going to build. I'm going to work on this with you, and we're going to build this, and I'm going to show you how to build this. And if you go back and look at the very beginning of my lesson, I said that I do want you to be creative in your thinking, but at the same time, there is a particular goal with this, and that is to create an accurate representation of a color wheel. So whatever you do creatively, it must end up being a color wheel. Can you be uncreative and simple in its execution like I did? Absolutely. I have no problem with that whatsoever, because I'm looking for you to create for me a correct color wheel. And I'm also looking for you to give me the relationships that are required within the assignment. So look at the assignment, understand the assignment, and make sure that you do all of it. And there are two parts to this first week assignment. There is creating the color wheel, and there is a secondary one where you're creating color relationships, and that's with a composition, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. Okay, so there is two parts to this first one, and you're going to create a regular color wheel like this and 3 color relationships based on modifying that one, which I'm going to demonstrate. And then the second part is to create the color relationships. Okay, so 2 parts, and then you have your assessment, which is a test, and most of the questions come right out of the book. You should probably have very little trouble with those questions. They're really relatively simple. All right.
Okay.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start showing you how I create this guy right over here. Oh, before I do that, there is one thing though. I wanted to bring out the color swatches because I was talking about that before you guys showed up. So I got these color swatches in here, and these are the basic colors that come when you open up any document, more or less. They don't mean anything to me, and they kind of like make things a little bit of a pain for me. So whenever I work in Adobe Illustrator, one of the first things that I do, aside from setting up a document, now I set up 2 documents. I got 2 pages here, and there is a page panel which enables me to make multiple pages. And I'm not going to be showing you that tonight, but I will be demonstrating that next week, the page panel. I'm not talking about the layers. I'm talking about the page panel, which enables me to make multiple pages in a document. Have either one of you, are either one of you familiar with the page panel in Illustrator?
I think so. Yeah.
Carla, we might have dealt with it. Did we deal with it? Not really last time. I don't think we really did. Well, we're going to deal with it. We're going to deal with it this time, so you'll see. All right?
All right.
All right, so what I want to do here is I want to get rid of all these colors, and I want to put all of my colors into there. Okay, so then I have just the colors that I'm working with. So the first thing I did was I went online, I got my color wheel, I brought it in, it was a bitmap, and I basically came in and I used my eyedropper tool to sample each one of the individual colors. And then I wrote down the hues that I got here. And I showed by clicking on this, all right, and opening up my color picker, that right here is my red. There's my red, okay? So I already showed this, so I'm not going to get into it all again. What I want to do is I want to get rid of all these colors. So there's a little menu right here on your swatches panel. And I'm going to click on that. And I got all these different selections that I can use in here. But the one that I'm looking for is the select all unused. You see it?
Yes.
All right. Click on that and notice right away what happens. They all kind of highlight, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to hit the garbage can to throw them all away. And delete the swatches. Yes. They're all gone pretty much, except for that little folder there, which I'm going to click and delete. Delete it. Okay. So what does that leave me with? That leaves me with essentially the none color, and none means no color, right? You guys know that.
Right.
That's an easy enough one. Registration is a form of black that's used for registration purposes. And then we have our solid white and our solid black. Both of these colors, by the way, I would leave in there because they're good solid colors and they don't hurt me. So I would leave them in there, okay? So now you saw what I did. I just basically got rid of all those colors, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to actually start loading in the colors that I am going to be using in my piece. And I do that by keeping my fill forward with the color red in it. See, the color I got selected is the red.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I can come in here and I can go new swatch. And what happens is the new swatch dialog box comes up and it's going to give me the CMYK name for this swatch. Oh, and by the way, if you look there, there's a sample of the swatch. And if you look over here, it's the exact same color, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Everything's copacetic here.
Mm-hmm.
I hit OK, and there you go. That one's in there. So now I'm going to click on the orange one. And actually, you know what the problem is? I got that grouped. I'm going to go Object, Ungroup. Let me ungroup that for a second. Now I'll click on the orange one. And you see where I got the orange highlighted?
Mm-hmm.
I can also click on that and drag it and drop it in. And that's another way to do it. So whether you come up here and do it or whether you go there and do it, one way or the other, you put your colors in. And again, this is going to give you the CMYK value, not the hexadecimal value, but the CMYK value, which doesn't matter because either way, it's just the color being appropriate. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to load my swatches panel with all of my colors so that if I'm doing something and I make a mistake, I can go back in and fix it by just re-choosing my colors. Makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, you don't want all those other colors in there because they just basically, I mean, wouldn't it be a little hard to find these things in all that other mess?
Yeah, it'd be confusing.
Yeah, so you want to get rid of all that. That's the whole point of this. So I'm just going to keep working around here like this, and I like doing this because I just think it's faster. That's my orange-yellow, and then here's my yellow-orange, and then I'm going to click and I'm going to drag my and these are actually drag. Oh, you know what? Control-Z, Control-Z. I'm dragging the wrong thing. What I need to do is I got 1, 2, 3. I got 1, 2, 3, so it's that one. I'm dragging the wrong thing in. I need to drag that in. Okay, and now I'm right. Now I'm going to drag that in, the color from here, okay? And then I'll go to this green color, and just so that you remember, new swatch, and there it is, hit okay, and you're just going to keep going around and dragging in the colors until you have all of your colors in there. Then I'll show you one more thing. And that, and drag it in there, and that blue. And there are 12 colors. And then there's the purpley color, drag that in. And then there's the violet-y color, drag that in, and we're back to red. So we've got all our colors loaded in there. There's one other color, I don't know whether you notice or not, but I have like a gray outline around this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually have a color gray here, and it's on the stroke. Mm-hmm. So in order for me to get that color gray from the stroke, I'm going to move the stroke forward. And then what I could do is I can go here, and I can go new swatch, and you see what comes up? The color gray.
Okay.
Right? Because I moved the swatch forward instead of the fill being forward.
Right.
Since the swatch is forward, it's reading from that swatch. And I hit OK. So I need those colors because I'm using the color in here. So this is basically how you load up your colors. Okay? Now there's one other thing that I want to do here. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to open, let's see here. Swatch library, as I say, swatch options. I think it's open swatch library. Other library, here we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to go into, let's see, Monday night, where was it? Monday night, here we go. Okay, I don't know whether you weren't here to see this, but when I went into Kuler, I uploaded some colors from Kuler, which is one of the things that you don't necessarily have to do this, but I think it's probably a good idea for you to do this because one of the purposes of Kuler is to actually acquire interesting colors when you are having trouble coming up with Cooler essentially is a place where you can go in and you can use the technology built into the Cooler site to play around with colors. You will go and you will explore this. The book that you're going to be reading from online will talk about Cooler and it will describe it to you. And as a matter of fact, one of my announcements, there'll be links that have a couple of videos that I think you should really watch. They're only 3 minutes or 5-minute videos, but you should watch them because they give you very quick run-throughs on Cooler. And Cooler is very valuable. So what I'm going to do is I went to Cooler earlier and I actually downloaded some colors from Cooler. So I'm going to click on one of my colors and I'm going to hit open. And you see what happens? I get another little panel here, which is my color theme panel. And I should be able to just simply click and drag. And now you see what I did? I dragged from my color theme, I dragged my Cooler colors into here. See how I did that? Really simple, right?
You just clicked on theme and dragged it over?
No, I'll do it again. Watch. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to Swatch Library, Other Library, and it opens my browse. And I'm going to go to my desktop, and in my tonight's lesson, Monday night, this time the one that I brought in was, I think was my color theme, Cherry Cheesecake. This is the other one that I downloaded. Essentially what I did was I downloaded them from Cooler, okay? And I think I actually did one in the beginning of the lesson, so you could actually see how I did it. I think I did my colors, or one of them I did. So I'm going to hit open. And now you see what it did is it replaced it with these are the Cherry Cheesecake colors. And all I'm going to do is, since this is not really my swatch panel, I want them in my swatch panel. The only reason I really want them is because I want to demonstrate to you how to do this. I'm not really using these colors, but in reality, I might be using these colors, and you need to know how to do it. So I'm demonstrating how to do it. Okay, that's really why I'm doing this. I'm clicking on this and I'm going to drag it in, and now I have my colors. I can close this, and I've added all the colors to my swatch panel that I'm going to be using tonight. These are all the colors that I'm going to use for my assignment, and these are 2 demonstration color ranges that were created using Cooler that I saved to my desktop and imported. And each one of these colors, if I look, I'll click this box, and I can use any one of these colors. All right, actually I got the stroke forward, so let me change it around. All right, so I now can make that shape into any one of these colors. I got the stroke forward. There we go. Any one of these colors I can apply to my object. See that? And these are colors that I got off of Cooler. Very nice way to get yourself some very sophisticated colors. And I definitely think that if now it doesn't make a lot of sense to you, in time it will make a tremendous amount of sense to you. And you'll find it's a very valuable way to go in and get some really nice ranges of colors when you're working on something and you need some inspiration. Okay?
Okay.
So you should watch the beginning of the video and see what I did with the Cooler stuff at the beginning of the video, and also take a look at the videos that I have. The recorded session is what I'm talking about. Take a look at the videos that I have for you in announcements, because they yeah. All right, so now I'm going to come back here and I'm going to reset this to basic black and white. And as a matter of fact, what I want to show you is when you have a vector object, you have a center point and you have these objects right here, these little anchor points. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how I created this thing. These are kind of the steps. Okay. And they're kind of out of position. This guy here is actually the first step, the first stage. Then this is the second stage, and this is like the third stage. So I'm going to demonstrate how to make this color wheel for you right now. And as I said, the way I got these colors was I went online and I found images, bitmaps of color wheels, and I got myself a nice strong one that had good color, brought it into Illustrator, and I used the dry dropper tool to sample the color, and then I created my color library and I created my colors on my sample. So that's how you do that. Okay.
I have a really quick question.
Go ahead.
It's for Carla. Carla, do you have to move your screen around to be able to follow the instructor?
Oh, click at the top of your screen. There's a bar that says more.
Okay.
click on that and it'll say fit screen. Click on that.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm like trying to follow you around. And I was
Sorry.
That's hard.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set I have my default black and white setup, which means essentially it's going to be a white fill and a black stroke. Okay. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to get the ellipse tool. And I'm going to come out. I also have my smart guides on. Smart guides are things that I like very much. I don't really need them for this assignment, but I just like having them, and I hope you don't mind. You see the little green lines?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what those lines are doing is they're looking at locations other than where my arrow is. See the little arrow in the middle there? And they're helping me to align things up. But I don't really need them in this particular case. So maybe what I'll do is I'll shut them off. Let me go to the view menu and let me go to smart guides and deselect smart guides. See, now they're gone. But I really like them because they are very helpful once I get producing stuff. So I'm going to click out a very quick circle. All right, there's my circle. All right, so I got my first circle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, there's a number of different ways that I could do this. I always try to do things the easiest way that I can depending upon where I am. I'm assuming that you guys are trying to learn the program on some level. And it's better for me to try to do things a little simpler than to try to put a lot of cool, glitzy things like keyboard shortcuts and all that stuff into it, because I don't use all keyboard shortcuts. And I know that if I throw them at new students, they tend to get really a little bit confused by the whole thing. So I will try to do things as simple as possible, just so that it slows me down a little bit, and it gives you the opportunity to maybe digest what I'm doing and make it easier for you when you actually go to try to create your own. All right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking my basic shape, and I'm going to start cutting my shape apart, and I'm going to use basic tools to cut the shape apart. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to a point where I have shapes like this. Look, see what I did? I actually made that circle into bits. That's what I'm going to try to do with this. And I'm going to use basic tools and basic operations in Illustrator to do this. This is one of the reasons why I say to you it's really important to use Illustrator, because this gives you crazy simplicity when it comes to doing this stuff. You just have to watch what I'm doing and get it. Okay. So I'm going to select my object. I'm going to go Edit Copy or Control X. I'm just going to go Edit Copy, all right, or Control C, I should say. And then Edit Paste in front. So it doesn't look like nothing happened, but let me tell you the truth, something did happen. Essentially what I did was I took the object that I had just made and I copied it and pasted it directly in front of the other object. So instead of there being one, now there's two. And I'm going to create a donut by just changing the size of the top object and cutting it out of the bottom one. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over to my toolbar, and I'm going to get the free transform tool. Okay, and I get my bounding box. That's what this thing's called, the bounding box. Okay, I am going to hold down here in the corner, and I'm going to hold the shift key down. The shift key constrains my selection, and I'm also going to hold down the alt key. Now I'm on a PC, so yours would be shift, yours would be alt, I guess it would be, oh boy, alt option. I think it's the option key, alt and option. Are in it? Huh?
Yes, option.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do is
shift option.
Shift alt or shift option. What it's supposed to be doing is it's supposed to be constraining it, but it's also going to make this thing reduce from the center point in. And I'm going to just drag this in. Look, see what it's doing?
That's cool.
Yes, it's very cool. And when I get to the point where I want, which is, I don't know, it could be anywhere in here, wherever you're comfortable with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let go of the mouse first, then I let go of the keys. And what I've done essentially is I've taken the front object and I've made that a smaller object. And now I got two objects. Now, what I want to do is I want to demonstrate what's going on here. I'm going to quickly change this. Oh, I should deselect it first. I'm going to change this to a black. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and I'm going to drag a black shape right here. And I'm going to go Object, arrange, send to back. So, and I'm going to go object lock selection. So what I did essentially was I created this black shape here, and I've locked it down. And I'm going to throw it away in a minute. This is just there so that you can see what's going on here. I'm going to turn this into a donut. I'm going to make what's known as a compound path. Okay? So what a compound path is two or more objects that interact with each other. So to make this donut, what I'm going to do is I'm going to marquee. That's a marquee. When you click and drag over both of the objects, something like that, that's called marqueeing. See? That's marqueeing. And it selects more than one object. So I'm selecting both those objects, and I have a choice. I could either go to the object, compound path, make, and I see how I made it into a donut?
Do that one more time.
Huh?
Can you do that one more time?
Control Z. Both of the objects are selected. I go object, compound path, make.
Okay.
And I made a compound path. I'm going to go Control Z. I want to undo this because I want to show you there's another way to do this. I go to the window menu. Window is where all your panels are. All the panels that are in your program are up in here. The one that I'm looking for is the Pathfinder palette. The Pathfinder palette is another palette that is used to create compound paths. So once again, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to marquee both of those objects. And I have this one here, which unites the two, and I don't want that because if I unite them, the one in the front disappears. It actually absorbs into the background one. But this one here, minus front is almost the exact same thing as compound path make. What it does is the minus front literally punches a hole through the back one. I click on it, and you see what happens?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two ways that you can go about doing this. There's actually a third way. I'm not going to bother with that now. But these two ways, I think, are enough for you. So do you guys think that you'll have any trouble creating that compound path? Good.
Maybe.
Okay. Now, well, I mean, you can.
I'll call you.
You can rewatch the video and see if you run into problems. But again, I try to take this slow and I try to explain it to you as best I can because I'd like you to be able to understand what's going on with it. The next step is, all right, so you understand that this has got a hole in it physically, right? If I get rid of this black thing because it's not really helping me. Go to Object, Unlock All, and I'm going to click on that black thing and delete. So those are my compound paths. And just so that you know, look, when I select it, you see how both of them select? Because they're combined. They're no longer separate items. They're one piece. It's a donut, all right? I also want you to see that when I select it, I have my vertical lines and my horizontal lines. They're going to help me do what I want to do. And what I want to do essentially is I want to start off by going to the window menu. The view menu. The view menu, and I want to go to rulers, and I want to show my rulers. They're my rulers. Okay, you guys familiar with the rulers? Have you ever worked with the rulers programs? You also know that you can click guides and drag guides out from the rulers, right? Did you know that? Yeah, so I'm going to click here and I'm going to drag a guide out and I'm going to place that guide right through the center of all those points horizontally. See where I put it? Okay, let go. There's my guide. Now I can do this. I can come over here and I can drag a guide out and I can place it vertically. But I want to show you something pretty cool. I'm going to drag that over there. I want to show you something really cool. I am going to come up to the top and I'm going to drag a guide out. And I got a horizontal guide, right? But if I hold down the Alt key or the Option key, look what it does. I'm going to let go.
It turns it vertical.
Yep. Alt or Option makes it vertical. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it in position and let go. And now what I've done essentially is I've given myself a center reference point right there. Oh, and by the way, these guides automatically lock. I can unlock them, but they're locked. So if I did this correctly, see how I got a nice little center point there? That's what I want. I want my nice little center point. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start creating these lines which are going to slice this thing up. There's a way that you could do this technically, but you don't have to be super technical with this, and you don't have to be super perfect with this. I'm a very forgiving guy. The bottom line is if I see you're doing it, and I see you're doing it basically right, you're going to pass it. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be technical, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to grab the Line Segment tool. Okay, and what the line segment tool does is it creates line segments. So I'm going to make sure that, oh, and by the way, I'm using my guides. If you notice my cursor changes into that little cross there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'm going to go a little bit outside of my circle. I'm going to click, hold the shift key down, because once again, I want to constrain this. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag down to about here, and I'm going to create a line segment just like that. Okay?
Did you make it?
What?
Should you make it black instead of no color?
It's actually, it has no fill on it, and it just has a black stroke. I'm going to bring the black stroke forward. It has a black stroke on it and no fill. I don't really need a fill for this because this is just a line. I do need a stroke on it, and it's a stroke which is essentially the same stroke as what's on the background of my circles. And the reason it's like that is because I never went in and changed the numbers up here. Look, check up here. My stroke is 1 point, and I have uniform basic. So that's what I started with, and it will not change those numbers unless I specifically ask to change those numbers. And I have no reason to change those numbers because I'm using just black. This is going to be something that I'm going to be cutting apart with. So I just want to make sure that I see what I'm doing. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to actually go Object, no, Edit, Copy, sorry. Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in Place. And I've actually done the same thing I did before. I copied and pasted this item in front of itself. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get the rotate tool. See it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Notice that when I place the rotate tool, it puts that little bomb sight dead in the middle there like that. You see it? I'm going to, okay.
Yeah.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that point. I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to wing it around until it hits that vertical line. By shifting it, what it did is it kind of locked it into a mode where it will automatically line it up straight. So essentially what I've done is I've created a gun sight. See how I've done that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm actually doing this because ultimately I'm looking to divide this whole thing up.
Mm-hmm.
So there I've got my 4 segments. So I got 4, I need 12. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in here. This one is selected. See it? I'm going to select that. I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to select that. So now I have my 2 lines selected only, right?
Yes.
Not the 2 circles, just the lines. Edit, Copy. Edit, Paste in front. Once again, get the rotate tool. Make sure that my little mark is right dead center. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here on that little anchor point, and I'm going to slowly move it around. And this is where you've got to kind of eyeball it a little bit because I don't have an exact measurement for you. We could do this with measurements, but you don't need to do this with measurements. You need to get it rough, and rough will be good enough. And that looks like it's probably pretty good. Do you see what I'm doing essentially?
That's pretty cool.
Now watch this. While I got that selected, both of them selected, I'm just going to go up here and go Edit, Copy again, Edit, Paste in Place, and I'm going to come over here, click on that, and I'm going to rotate that around until I got, relatively speaking, even sections. And it doesn't have to be exact. They need to be relatively exact. There you have it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They're close enough. Now, if I wanted to, this one looks like it's a little bit off, so I can click on that one. And obviously, the one that's opposite of it is, let's see, that one would be opposite of this one. And I could click on that one. And what I could do is I could make sure that with the rotate, it's in the middle. And what I could do, let me just place it, make sure it's dead in the middle. And I could just come up here and I could move that just a touch that way. Probably good right there. And that looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They look fairly even. Now, again, when you actually get into doing this, there are other ways that you could do this. And the bottom line is once you put the color in and you put the stroke on it and whatnot, I don't think anybody's going to know the difference of whether it's exact or not. And I don't really care. The important thing is, though, that you do this and that you do it correctly. So what I have now is I have a series of shapes. And all of these shapes are going to work together to create my segments, which are these guys right here. So how I do that is I come in and I marquee everything. I get the whole thing marqueed. And once again, I'm going to go up to the window menu, and I'm going to come in, I'm going to find Pathfinder again, bring Pathfinder out. And this time, under Pathfinders, I have these on the lower level. The one that I'm looking for is Divide. There's Trim, there's Merge, which is very similar to this, and then you have Crop. These are kind of similar to these. But the ones that I'm really looking for here is the Trim and the Divide. And the one that I want actually is Divide. What Divide is going to do is it's going to take all of those shapes there, and it's going to divide every shape up to make new shapes. Does that make sense? You're going to make a bunch of new shapes by dividing everything up. Okay? So now I know which one I'm going to use. What I want you to do is I want you to take a look at my shapes while I click on this. Are you ready? I'm going to click on it. I want you to be watching what happens to the shape when I click on it. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. You see what it did?
Mm.
Okay. So now what I did was I basically created this divided shape. Now, there are some things inside here. See them? See that stuff inside there?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I think I have to ungroup this. It actually creates a group. So I ungrouped it. Now I'm going to come in here and watch. I'm going to click on all that, and you see how the inside there, there are those shapes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't want those shapes. They're leftovers there because it divides everything up, and it actually creates shapes in there, which I don't want. So what I do want are these shapes here. So I select these shapes inside here, and I hit delete, and they go away. And what I'm left with is my colors. Look, there's my first shape. See? Isn't that slick?
That's really awesome.
So you guys can do that, right?
Cool.
Yep.
Yep, I knew it. Okay,
Yes.
Control Z. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these things, and the first thing I have here, notice, is my stroke forward. Right? See my stroke?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The stroke is actually a color gray. So I'm going to click on gray for the stroke, and then I'll deselect it, and you'll see now I have my stroke is gray all the way around it. Actually, I think my stroke might be a little bit bigger. So let's see if I make that. Let's try 2 points. That's okay. I think 2 points is good. So I've actually created a 2-point stroke. Now that I've done that, all that's left is for me to come over here and move my fill forward. So I now have my fill forward, right? Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by clicking one of the, it doesn't matter where you start because you're going to go right around in a circle here. Click on one of your shapes, and you're going to come in and you're going to start loading your colors in. Now, these colors have to go in a very specific way. So you have to make sure that you have your colors in the proper order and the proper alignment. So you want to check to make sure you do that so that it ends up looking correct. I already loaded mine carefully, and I know all I'm really going to have to do here is start clicking to put my colors in. So I start with the first one. There's the first one. The second one, move to the second one. And then the third one, which is that. And then 4, which is that. 5, which is the true yellow. And 6, which is the yellow-green. And 7 is the green. And then there's the light violety green or blue. And then there's the true blue. And then there's the purple. Did I screw this up? I always do this. I always mess this up. I did. I missed one. Okay, so which color did I miss? Let's see. I missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I missed one. So there's this color here. Okay, that color there. See what it's doing? It's running through the colors. This is going to show me quickly which one I missed. There's that one. There's that one. There's that one. That one. That one. That one. That one. Ah, there it is. That's the offender. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here. It's this one here. See, and then this one here. So I missed that color right there. So that is actually that color right there. I do this every time I do this exercise. I make the same mistake. So, you know,
I will too.
It's okay. You just figure it out and you fix it. Come back in here, move on to my next blue. And then my next one is the purple. And then, of course, the last one will be my violet. And there you go. I'm going to go to the View menu, and I'm going to go Guides. Wrong one. View menu, Guides, Hide Guides. And if you take a look over here and you take a look over here, you've got mostly the same thing. So this is what you're going for. You're going for a demonstration like this. Now, the other part of this is, let me zoom into this a little bit, and I'll show you what the next part of this is. So the next part of this is what you're going to do is you're going to create a series of color relationships. So the first thing that you're going to do is make the color wheel.
Quincy.
Yeah. Let me just, I actually want to zoom in like that. That's good. All right, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to create the color wheel. And the color wheel, you're going to want to also put the names of the color. That goes back to my original. So this is what I did. I made it very simple. I just put the names of my color outside the color. I mean, if you wanted to, you could, literally bring the color name over top of the color. It's up to you however you want to do it. But one way or the other, you want to have your color to show all the different colors. And you want to name them correctly. So the colors that are correctly named, and go back to my page here, is when you go to the View menu. Red, orange, yellow, green, green, blue, violet, and red, violet. Okay. Now, if you want, I could put this file up into announcements for you later, and then you could use those colors. That's another way that you could do it. Just don't use my art. Create your own. Okay. Create your own art. But I can definitely put this up for you, and then you could have that to work from. So the last thing that you're going to want to do with this is you're going to want to show some color relationships. So the other thing I want to do is maybe I might want to rotate this a little bit. So I'm going to get the rotate tool again. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to rotate this, and I'm going to get let's see if I can get my reds and went too far. If I get my reds up, I'm going to have to just, there we go.
So
I wanted to get my reds.
You group them together before you
They're not grouped.
them?
No, they're not grouped. Look, they're not grouped. They're not grouped. They're ungrouped. I could group them if I want, but I haven't got them grouped. They're not grouped. Okay, they were
How did you rotate all of them?
When I sliced them up, when I cut them apart, they automatically grouped. I ungrouped them and then I started working on them. So when I did the transformation using the Pathfinder palette, the transformation caused them to group. So I generally go right in and ungroup them. I could leave them and use the direct selection tool, but I generally ungroup them because they're easier to work with at that point. And I just don't move them. I just don't move my objects. I mean, I'm moving them now so that I can show you what's going on. You see what I mean? But I don't really have a need to move that. I just leave it alone. So the next thing and the last thing that I need to show you about this, and then you'll know exactly how to go about doing this, is so you're going to create one that looks like this pretty much. Okay, so you get that idea? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the wheel with the colors correct and the color names correct. That's one. Then I think you have to do 3 relationships. I think you have to do complementary, tertiary, and there's one other which I can't off the top of my head remember what it is. So I'm going to show you how to do the easiest one, which is the complementary. Complementary color is essentially any color that's opposite of itself. So the red and the green would be complementary. Blue and yellow would be complementary. Orange and blue-green would be complementary. This is violet and what is that? Yellow-green would be complementary. So any colors that are opposing one another on the color wheel are complementary. Okay? So you see how I made a complementary relationship shown here? Notice that I only made one. When I say complementary, I only show one. That doesn't mean that there's only one complement, and that's red and green. That means that any color opposing one another is a complementary color. So, you don't have to show me every single complement. Many times what students do is they just show me every complement, and it creates a very confusing presentation. So I'm not looking for you to do that. I'm looking for you to create a very neat little presentation here, okay? And so what I would do with this is 2 things, and this is pretty slick. I would start off by going like this. I would go edit copy, edit paste in place, and I would come in here and I would select my fills, and I'd place all of my fills to none. That's the top layer. The top layer has fills that are placed to none, okay? And then what I'm going to do is, before I deselect that, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it none, and I'm going to go Object Lock Selection. So that's locked. Now the one underneath it is not locked. So you understand? The reason I'm doing this is because watch what happens. If I click the one underneath it, and if I bring my fill forward, and if I click on the none button, you see what happens? It still looks like the color's there. It's not. The one that's beneath it, I took the stroke off of it. But because the one on top has the stroke on it and it's transparent in the middle and it's locked, the stroke doesn't go away. There's a reason I'm doing this. It's actually pretty cool. There's a reason that I'm doing this, okay? So I'm going to go Control-Z to bring that back, and you'll give me a minute, and I'll show you why I'm doing this. What I'm about to do is I'm about to show you how I would build that color relationship here, okay? I would do that by coming in, and I would get my rectangle tool, and I would come in, and I'd hold down the Shift key, and I would drag myself a nice little square like that. And I would make the square a fill of gray and no stroke. Okay, so there's my nice little square, and it's probably a good idea to make this a square. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a little arrowhead. And how I do that is there are other tools in the pen tool, and one of them is the Delete Anchor Point tool. See it right there? And if I click on the Delete Anchor Point tool, and I come over top of one of those little anchor points, and I click on it, you see what it did? It deleted the point. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the direct selection tool. There is a regular selection tool. Let me get that over here. There's a regular selection tool, there's a direct selection tool, and there's a group selection tool. The group selection tool will group an individual object that's part of a greater group. The direct selection tool allows me to go in and click. See how when I click on the object, I'm going to click on the path. You see how when I do that, you see how these little anchor points are all open?
Okay.
Okay, and when I click on that anchor point right there, you see how that one particular anchor point is selected? Okay, now if I click on that, and if I drag this thing up a little bit, I end up getting an anchor point, or I end up moving the anchor point, and I end up looking like an arrowhead. So that's really what I'm trying to do. Then I'm going to come in here, I'm going to rotate that a little bit around the center point. And I'm going to try to get that thing, whoops, you know what? I got to deselect it first. I can't just do it with one point. Now I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to rotate that thing around the center point, about like that. I'm going to drag that thing around, hold the Shift key, try to get it straight like that. There you go. Now, I want to have a relationship which is complementary. So I need one arrow pointing at one color and one arrow pointing at another color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to get what's called the Reflect tool. And if I drag this out, there's the Reflect tool. And I click on the Reflect tool, and what happens is I double click, and I get my Reflect Options dialog box. And if I hit the preview, you'll see what it does is it's going to change the direction of it. I did it horizontally. You see, it shows you right here what it's going to do. It's changing the direction of it. Now, here's the trick. The trick is that that's the original, and it's now pointing down. But I need one to point up, and I need one to point down, don't I? But if I click this button right here, copy, see it? Watch. See, I've made a duplicate. And now all I have to do is run the duplicate out, and I have basically my double-headed arrow ready to go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, I'm going to get the line tool, and I'm going to go back to the view menu, and I'm going to come back into guides, and I'm going to bring my, smart guides, there we go, smart guides, and now I'm back to my smart guides, and you see why I want my smart guides? Look what it's doing. See what it's doing?
Yeah, it's making exact
center of the object, isn't it? You got to love that. Come on. Hold down the shift key and you drag that sucker up there. Look at that. And now I got my line in there, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to click gray, and then I'm going to come in here and find the point size that I want, maybe 5. That's probably okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this all, and I'm going to go Object, Group. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that thing down into here, and there I have my relationship showing. And if I want, I can come in here and select this thing, and I can change it by holding down the Shift key and the Alt key, and I can just drag this thing down until it becomes smaller. There you go. Look at that. And now I have my relationship showing. So it's similar to that. So far, are you with me? This is not hard, is it?
Yes.
It is hard?
No, it's not hard.
Now I'm going to get my type tool, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click, and I'm going to type complementary, COMPLEMENTARY, complementary. Now I'm going to select this, and I want a nice condensed font like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to choose Myriad Pro. It's actually already selected because I've been working in Myriad Pro. I choose Myriad Pro for 3 reasons. Number 1, it's a sans serif font, very easy to read on screen. Number 2, I like the font. And number 3, I have a number of different, see how I got a number of different styles? And what I'm looking for is bold condensed. I want it to be condensed and I want it to be bold. And I click on that and I get that. And I probably will bring the size up to 14. There we go. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down, and I'm going to place that in there and get it to center up as best I can. It's not showing me a center mark on this, so I have to eyeball it. I think I got to go that way a bit. So now I've more or less got all this done. There's one more cool little trick that I would like to show you. So this actually, if you submitted this to me this way, it would work, because you're pointing to the different relationships, and you're correct. The ones opposite of each other are complementary, and you have complementary here. But I want to show you something that even makes this look better. Once I have this done, remember now I have the top layer with just strokes on it, right? And the bottom layer I have strokes and fill. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to marquee all of the colors down here, not that one, and not that one. So that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one, they're all marqueed, right? That means they're all selected, right? Okay. Go to the window menu, come down to transparency, and I'm going to bring out my transparency palette. And this is something that you just absolutely have to love. Take a look at my thumbnail. It's actually showing me what I have selected. Is that fabulous or what?
Yeah, that's cool.
The bottom line is you know exactly what you have selected, and you know whether it's correct or not. So it is correct. It's exactly what I want. I'm going to go to the opacity slider, and I'm going to drop this down to say, oh, I don't know, maybe 30%. That's too much. I'm going to bring it to 50. That's better. And when I deselect this, look at that. What I've done is I've taken and I've shaded the colors that are not part of the complementary pair. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to select all those colors. I'm selecting what's underneath the lockdown path that has the stroke on it. What's underneath that is being selected. And I'm going to come in, and I think it was 50, right? Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Now what you have here is a really nice way to show the complementary relationship. And it is something that you should have very little trouble doing with this program. And if you're gonna, if you have like 4 different ones to do. So what I would do is I would start off by making the original one, and then I would duplicate it 4 times, and you could duplicate them on one page 4 times, or you could create 4 separate pages using the page panel, and I'll show you how to do that. Go to the window menu and go to pages, artboards, I'm sorry, artboards. Go to the artboards, and you see how I got 2 pages here? I got start and final. Yeah. I come up here, I click, and I create new artboard, and I create new artboard. And now I have 4 artboards. Now watch when I go view, fit all in window. You see how I got 4 artboards here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me get this out of the way for a second and get this out of the way for a second. These I can close up. So I get these 4 artboards here. And what I want to do is I want to neaten them up because they look a little messy. So what I'm going to do again is come up to the drop-down menu and go rearrange artboards. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the layout of 2 rows. There's a couple of ways you could go with this. A grid by row, a grid by column, arrange by row, and arrange by column. And I got 2 rows, and it's going to be with a 25%, a quarter of an inch in between each one of them. And move artwork with artboard and click OK. And watch these 4 artboards snap into their new position. You ready? Any questions about any of this? You're just picking the direction that you want your layout to go in. You can make them 4 in a row or 4 in a column, or you can have them sort of like in a grid panel. I prefer the grid panel, so I've chose the second one. That's really what it is. I hit OK. See what it did? It actually whipped me around and created my, this was locked. So you see what happened is since this was locked, it didn't move. And I want to show you what happens. Check this out. There, you see how that, because it's been made transparent, you see how that shows?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's also transparent. That's why I go to the view, fit all in window. I'm going to come over here and go object, unlock all. And then I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to drag this back over here. Watch this. Let me show you what's going to happen here because this is very cool. So what I'm saying is when I made these things transparent, the stroke and the fill got transparent. That's why I created this little wheel here so that when I snap the wheel over top of this thing in the proper position, I end up getting that look, which looks terrific.
That's cool.
So that's what you're going to do. You're going to create something along the lines of that. View, fit all in window, fit artboard in window. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to create 2 things. You're going to create your initial color wheel that has the colors on it, like this. The second, third, and fourth will look more like this, where you've removed the colors and you're just going to show the complementary, the tertiary, whatever ones they're asking you for, you're going to demonstrate. And you can find very easily what some of them looks like on Cooler, and you could also find what some of them looks like in your lesson that you're going to read from your chapters of your book. Any questions about any of this at all?
Yeah, how did you do your names of your colors in that circle? Did you use
Yeah, basically what I did, I'll go back to it. Basically what I did was I created my type. I created my type. See that type right there?
Mm-hmm.
And actually what I should have done is I should have centered that, okay, which I didn't do. I actually made that a line left. So I should have actually centered it. That would have been the smart move for me to center this thing, which I didn't do. There, now it's centered. See why I like these guys? Look. I just love these guys because they can pop me right into the center of things. It's terrific. And then what I did essentially was I went edit copy, edit paste in place, and then I came over here. I'm going to bring this out actually because this is something that I'm going to do so many times that I would actually bring it right out here. And I would click on the rotate tool. And then what I would do is I would click on this point right here, and I would drag that point right down to the middle of this thing. Now, I don't have any guides out there, so it's not going to work perfect, but you'll, I think, generally get the idea. Click it there. And what it's going to do is it's now going to rotate that duplicate around that point. Oh, yeah, it is. It's doing it. Rotate that around its point, and you can bring it over to here, and then you're just going to change it to red-orange. And you do that and go to the next one, orange. And then the next, you copy and paste it and rotate it. And always use the center point here. So what you're doing is you're rotating around the center point, and that's what it's going to do. It's going to rotate that around. So you get this really wonderful curving effect so that it looks exactly like it should as it goes around.
Oh, that's cool.
You get that? You understand that?
Yeah, I've never seen it before. That's cool.
It's easy, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to my next. This is the final part of your project. So I live in the state. I live in the state of New Jersey. So here's what you're seeing here. Here's your analogous colors. The analogous color is where you have one complementary color and you have 2 colors that are on either side of it. You have the tertiary color range. The tertiary colors are these colors right here. And then you have a complement or a split complement, and I'll explain them in a minute. So basically, where I live in New Jersey, we're very close to the border of Pennsylvania. And if you go into Pennsylvania, one of the things that you see all over the place are hex symbols, very similar to the one that I have here on the side of the barn. And they kind of are supposed to be like, you know, they keep evil spirits away from the animals and the barns and all that stuff. They're very superstitious about this. And it's actually just become a very nice thing that they do, and they're all over the place. So I found one that I particularly like. This is a very classic hex sign. And they use these colors. They use the blue, the yellow, and the red. You'll see them predominantly in those colors. That's why it occurred to me when I actually had to create this assignment, this is a great opportunity for me to create this this kind of approach. So once again, you see what I did here. I essentially created within my document 4 pages. Okay. Now I'm going to go File, New, and I'm going to show you that in a new document, if you wanted to create 4 pages, you can create it right from the very beginning. So I'm going to, I think the size of this is 8 by 8. I don't exactly remember, but I think that's what it is. Notice that right here, I'm going to call this test. Okay, so test. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my artboards and I'm going to place 4 in here. 4 artboards. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before, columns by grid, and I'm going to leave the spacing to 0.28. So I'm not changing very much. But what I am going to do is I'm going to change the width of this from 8. I'm going to make it 8 inches by 8 inches. And I don't need all the rest of this stuff. I don't need all this other stuff. Color mode, RGB is fine. This is all not important at this point. It will be important at some other point, but for now it's not really important. What's really important is that the number of artboards be set to 4, the spacing be something like 28, just enough that you could see the difference. And then, of course, 8 by 8, which I believe is the size that they want, right?
Okay.
And then I'm going to hit OK. And you see what I did? I just basically created a 4-page document. And you could build 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 on each page, okay? If that's what you want to do. You could actually create it on 1 page for them if you want to. Totally up to you. But I'm trying to show you things about the program that I think will help you to be better with the program. And remember now, you have the artboard panel, and the artboard panel gives you access to each of the individual boards, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to close this because we're not going to be working with it. But what I want to show you is, and I'm done with this for now, and I actually am done with all of this except the layers. That's what I want. This is gone, and this is gone. Don't need that anymore. So really now, from this point forward, the only thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at what I did here. One of the most important things that you're going to want to do is you're going to—
I have a real quick question.
Go ahead.
Where do I find the recording to watch?
I'm gonna copy it. I'm gonna copy it into YouTube, and I'm going to put the link in to the announcements probably either late tonight or tomorrow morning. So
okay, because my internet keeps kicking me out of class.
What?
My internet keeps kicking me out of class.
Oh.
So
yeah.
I've missed about 3/4 of what you've said, and so I was making sure I would have a recording to watch.
Oh,
later.
there's definitely there's a recording. There's a recording.
Awesome. Okay.
And it will be there by tomorrow morning sometime, and you'll have no trouble. Just go into your course, and you'll see that there'll be an announcement with a link to it, and it's in YouTube. Plus, as a matter of fact, I have an entire YouTube site that you can sign up for, and you can take a look at all kinds of videos that I have in there. I've got a bunch of videos in there that I do in YouTube. Okay, if you can stand, you can stand listening to me that long.
Absolutely.
All right. So here's what I want to show you. One of them says Pennsylvania Dutch hex sign, one says analogous, one says complementary, split complementary, and one says tertiary. So what I did here, I got my layers panel out, and I created 4 separate layers. And on each one of my layers, I have the 3 layers locked because they're all the same color. And what I'm about to do is going to affect color. So if I were to unlock all these colors, and if I were to come in here, I want to show you why I'm locking these first. I click on that yellow right there. See that little yellow thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I go to the select same fill color. Look what happens.
Oh.
Yellow everywhere selects. Okay, and if I change the color, watch what happens. changes it everywhere.
Mm.
Okay, no good. So what I do to combat this is I come in here and I put each one of these on its own layer. Then I lock the layers, and the only one is the unlock layer, and that's that one right there. And if I come in here and if I get my tool and I click on the orange now, that's the only one that gets affected. You get it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what you want to do is you want to create a basic object that has your color wheel on it, and then you're going to change the color wheel to the analogous, complementary, or split complementary, and tertiary. And then what you're going to do is you're going to make sure you have them on layers. You're going to lock 3 of them, and you're going to work one at a time. So my Pennsylvania Dutch hex sign is already done because it's the blue, the yellow, and the red. That one is done. I don't have to show you. But what I'm about to show you, I'm going to lock that one. I'm going to go to the analogous, and I'm going to unlock the analogous. And what I did essentially was I created these 3 little color chips, and I made sure that all the colors, the blues are the same, the yellows are the same, the reds are the same. Absolutely the same. I start with them the same. Then what I do is I have the 3 colors that I'm about to use selected. Obviously, red is one of my colors, so I don't have to change that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, I'm going to click on the blue, and I'm going to go to the Select Same Fill Color, and get the eyedropper tool. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to bring this out so my eyedropper tool isn't so far away. Get my eyedropper tool, come in and click on the orange. And then I'm going to get my selection tool, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to click on the yellow. And I'm going to get my Select Same Fill Color again, and click on the eyedropper tool, and click on the purple. And that one, the analogous color scheme, is complete. So I have my primary colors, and I have my analogous colors. So I'm now going to lock the analogous layer, and I'm going to go down to the tertiary. Let's go to the tertiary and get that one done because that's an easy one too. So I'm going to click on tertiary, and I'm going to unlock that layer. Then I'm going to come down here, and it's going to be purple, orange, and green. So I'm going to click on the blue first. Once again, go to the select menu, same fill color, and with the eyedropper tool, I'm going to come in here and click on the green. Then I'm going to get my selection tool, and I'm going to select the yellow, select same fill color, come in here, click on this, and this is going to be the orange, right? And then regular selection tool, click on the red, select same fill color, eyedropper, and go with the purple. And now I have my tertiary. So you see what you're doing essentially is you're using some kind of a design that you whip up to show the different color relationships. Does it have to be a hex sign? Of course not. It can be anything you want. You can have fun with it. This is where you can be creative. But just make it so that this really shows the relationship. Mine isn't particularly creative, but it's something I like. I happen to like these hex signs, and I thought this is just a really nice one to work with. I'm going to zoom in on this one because this one's a little more complicated. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you finally this, and then we're done for the night. I'm going to lock all this, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go complementary and split. So I've got that unlocked. Now, there's 2 ways that I could go with this. I can go with what's known as a split complementary. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go Object, Unlock All. All right. And I'm going to then go back in, and I'm going to make sure, well, these are all locked, so it should be okay. Let's see. Yeah, it is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to select these guys, and I'm going to go to Transparency, and let me go to Transparency. Yeah, here we go. And I'm going to change that. These are selected. See again, see how they're selected? I'm going to bring them back up to 100%, okay, because I want to show you split complementary. I'm going to select these, and again, bring this up to 100%. So what is a split complementary? Complementary color is red and green. Those are your complementary colors. So what you do when you split a complement, and here's the thing, you'll read about this in your book. If you split a complement, what you do is you choose one of the complementary colors. So I'm going to choose red because I like red. Then instead of coming down and picking its complement, I'm going to split the colors to either side. So I'm going to click on that color, and I'm going to click on that color. That, and that, those three colors right there are split complements. So if I were to, I'm not going to bother doing this, but I could, if I were to show this, I would now gray out all these other colors and I would leave these splits. But let me show you how it looks like in here. So I'm going to click on the blue, and I'm going to go select same fill color, and I'm going to come in here with my eyedropper tool, and I'm going to click on that green color, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to deselect all this, and I'm going to click on the yellow. I don't have a yellow loaded in here, so I'm going to click over here and get that yellow. The red is still red because that's what I chose, so I'm not going to change that. But I am going to change the yellow. Select same fill color, okay? And I'm going to come in here, and with the eyedropper tool, the complement is red and green. I chose that as one side, and I'm going to go with the blue on the other. That right there is a split complement. So once again, if you want to go with split complement or complement, okay, split complement would be fine. Now, the only thing that happened here is notice that they have on some of these that gray outline. Notice that, because the gray outline is there because basically the swatch that I'm choosing has a stroke on it. So I'm going to just hit the stroke, hit the none stroke on it, and I actually lost my black because I had that selected. So I'm going to come back in and I'm going to click on black. Oh, and by the way, I just don't know whether you realize this or not, but I did not remove my colors from up here. Oh. So you probably should do that. But at any rate, you know, see how every document has the same colors in them? Yeah. So you really do want to get them out of there. It's a professional way to go. All right. So there's that. Now there's one other thing that you could do here, if you wanted to. All right. So I'm going to go with complementary colors. So I'm going to change this color here. Watch. I'll go here and go select same fill color. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to use the complement of this, which is the green. So let's change it to that green. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and the other thing that we could do with this to get a third color is we can use HSB. HSB stands for hue, saturation, and brightness. So if I tick the color, let's say I'm going to select my, I'm going to go with red and green. Oh, and by the way, this thing here actually, yeah, I'm not going to worry about that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this guy right here. This is the blue because I got red and green so far. And I'm going to go select same fill color, okay? And I'm going to come down and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to make that red too. All right, and it got deselected. Let me try it again. Select same fill color and click on the red. Okay, so now I have two reds, and it looks kind of strange. However, I want to remind you that we have hue, saturation, and brightness. So hues, these are hues. Hue means color. So I'm not going to drag this down because I don't want to mess my color up. But if I drag this slider, I can get any one of these colors as a base color, okay? So I'm going to leave this as red. And what I'm going to do for this third color is I'm going to play around with the saturation. Saturation means the amount of color. If I drag this thing from right to left, what I'm doing is, look at my split color up here. That's the original, that's the new color. As I drag this thing this way, what it's doing essentially is it's knocking some of that color out. So I could go that way, or I could come back and I could get it close to where the original was before. I got to try to get this. That's probably close enough for our purposes right now. Okay, there we go. The other way is brightness. Brightness is down. So what I can do is I can do something like that and hit OK. And now you see what I've come up with? Okay.
Oh, that's really cool.
There's a whole lot of different ways that you can play around with color. And I'm not even in Cooler. I'm basically just in plain, ordinary, vanilla, Adobe Illustrator. The view menu, and I'm going to fit all in window. And this is what your second project would be. You're going to create something like this for me. So you'll create color wheels for me, and you will create for me some kind of compositions like this where you're using the colors within the color wheels to create an arrangement of color. Okay?
Okay, that sounds great.
All right, so I am done. I have nothing more to say. I'm open for questions or anything you want to talk about.
I think I've got it. I'll just keep replaying it, so I can follow it and do it along with you.
Yeah, now remember, you were here with me last time. Did you actually ever work with Tira?
I didn't.
Okay, Tira's there. She's very capable. Work with Tira. If you need any help, you can also call me. I will be more than happy to talk to you and try to help you any way that I can. If you need to give me a call, please feel free to do so.
Okay.
Again, the video will be up by tomorrow morning. And my YouTube, I have a YouTube site. You should be able to get access to my YouTube site from the linked video source that I'm going to give you for this lesson, because it'll be in the same place. And I got a bunch of other videos in there if you ever want to take a look at them.
Yeah, I do.
So that's it.
Very good. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. And
Have a good night. Bye.